Hi, this is Wendy from Knitters Brewing, and I'm going to show you how to make this loopy border that we're showing for the Feelin Loopy Shawl. This border starts out with a 41 row kind of setup area, and then it has a 12 row repeat that makes these little loopy sections along it. And that's what I'm going to show you how to make today. But first, let me tell you about a couple of things you need to know to do this. You will need two ends of yarn to make this. One end for the main part of the border, and then a second end will be used to make these loops, I-cord loops. Now you can either roll your yarn into two balls to accomplish that, or what I like to do is use the inside tail of a center pull ball for the main part of the shawl border, and then use the tail from the outside of the center pull ball for the I-cord. So whichever way you want to do it is fine. And then the other thing that we're going to need is some tools for this, and I will go through and let you know what those are. Alright, so the first thing that you need is needles, and we're using size 5 for this shawl. You can either use circulars or straight. This is all done flat knitting. I like to use circulars. 24 inch or even 16 inch will be fine for this part of this project. Then you'll also need, in size 5, two double-pointed needles, and that's what we'll be using to make the I-cord here for each of these little loops. Another thing that you need is a cable needle to hold these stitches, or some sort of a stitch holder. I like to use this U-shaped cable needle. I think it works perfectly, and you'll see how I use it as I go through this demonstration. But you could also use some other kind of stitch holder or a different type of cable needle. And then the last thing that I use to do this is good old school stitch counter, because when you do the I-cord, you're going to be doing 16 rows, and it's really easy to forget where you're at when you're kind of mindlessly doing I-cord. So this tool comes in really handy as well. All right, let's go. We're ready to start row 1 of the 12 row loopy repeat. And you've got 33 stitches on your needle. And you're going to be using the tail end that's connected to the center of your center pull ball, or your main ball if you have two balls wound to do this. First thing we do is slip 1 and knit 2 and purl 2, and then I'm going to show you how to do the cable without using a cable needle. This is a 2 by 2 or 2 over 2 front crossed cable. So to do this, we're going to take our needle and we're going to stick it. We're going to skip the first 2 loops, and we're going to stick it through the back of loops 3 and 4. And so we're going in around the back side of those like that. Now we slip all 4 stitches off the left hand needle and grab the first 2 with the left hand needle, and that crosses the stitches. Now put the 2 on the right hand needle back, and then we're just going to knit all 4 of them, and that will give us our cable. You can certainly use a cable needle if you prefer that method. Alright, there's our cable cross. Now we purl 2, and then we do that front cross cable again. So needle around the back through stitches 3 and 4. Oops, I got 3. There's 4. Slip the 4 off. Grab the first 2. Now these go back over, and then we knit 4. All right, purl 4, 1, purl 2, and now we're going to do an even bigger cable. We're going to do 4/3 front knit cable. So we're going to do this cable over the next 7 stitches. So now we're going to go behind and we are going to skip over the first 4 stitches and put the needle through the back of stitches 5, 6, and 7. And again, when they get bigger like this, they get a little trickier to do without the cable needle. So if you want to grab a cable needle, there's no problem with that. So then you slip all 7 off and then come back and grab the first 4 with the left hand needle. Now I'm going to slide these 3 back over and knit all 7. Oops. My yarn was not in the back. There we go. All right, and then after you finish that bigger cable, here's what it looks like. Now you've got 4 left on your needle. These are the 4 that we're going to use to create the I-cord loops that you see here in the previous repeats of this. So all we're going to do with those right now is take your stitch holder. I like to use these U-shaped cable needles, and you're just going to transfer your stitches onto your stitch holder or your cable needle. And then just let them hang out of the way until we need them in a little while, and that will be after we work row 8. So they're going to hang there while you work the next 7 rows. The next 7 rows don't really present any different stitches than what I've shown here, so go ahead and work rows 2 through 8, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how to work the I-cord. All right, now we're going to work on the I-cord. We've just finished row 8, and so now we're going to take our holder with these stitches, and I'm just going to get these out of the way here. All right, now we're going to slip these onto a double-pointed needle, and then we're going to work 16 rounds of I-cord. And I won't make you watch all 16, but I'll get you going here. Okay, so we've got them on the needle, and now we're going to use the thread from the outside of the ball. Oops, let me grab it. I've already done a couple of repeats, so mine's already attached. But the first time you do this, you want to attach your tail end from the outside of the ball, if you're using a center pull ball, or use your second ball, the tail from your second ball if you're using 2 balls. Okay, so I-cord, if you've never done it, the I stands for idiot because it's just so simple and boring, but what we're going to do is we're going to make a 4-stitch tube, as you can see in this previous example. And to do that, we knit the 4 stitches as if you did any other kind of knitting. Then instead of turning the work, we just slide these stitches all the way back down to the beginning of the needle and then knit again. So what you're probably thinking right now is that the tail is on the wrong side, and it is. So when you knit that first stitch again, you want to pull that tail tight, and that's what makes the first stitch and the 4th stitch scooch up close together and form a tube. Now, you won't see it until you get a few rows in. So that's all you're going to do is just knit 4 and then scooch them to the other end of the needle and knit them again. And you're going to do that 16 times. So now I've done it twice. And we're going to do it again. Alright, and this is where I mentioned earlier that it's nice to have a row counter because these rows are so short and it's easy to kind of forget where you are. You can see that the tube is now forming here after 3 rows. So we're just going to keep doing that for 16 rows, and then I will come back and show you what we do next. I've finished all 16 rows of the I-cord now, and this is how it looks, and you can see it's a solid cord on all sides. So now what we're going to do is put that back onto our stitch holder and set it aside until we need it again in rows 9 and 11. So I'm just going to slip it back onto my U-shaped cable needle, and I'm just going to let it hang to the side. That's what I like about these needles. They'll hold on to the stitches without any effort. Now we're going to go back to the main body and knit row 9. All right. Row 9 starts out with slip 1, which is purlwise, and then we knit 2, and then we purl 2, and we knit 2, and then we're going to do a 2 over 2 front knit cross, which again I'm going to do without the cable needle. So go around to the back, grab the 3rd and 4th stitches from behind, slip all 4 off the needle, grab the first 2 with the left needle, and then slip the ones on the right needle to the left needle. Now their positions are switched, and then we just knit all 4. All right, now we purl 4, knit 2, purl 2, knit 1, purl 2, and now we're getting to the good part. So here's our last 7 stitches. We're going to knit 3 of these, and then we're going to knit in the first 2 stitches from the I-cord. And this is how we're going to join the I-cord back to the piece like it's done here. So I'm going to just kind of hold on to these. Now I'm going to pick up the I-cord and get it in the right position so that its tail is not going to get trapped inside the loop. The tail should be on the outside of the 4 stitches. Now I'm just going to knit the first 2 of these stitches right into the main body, and I'm going to use the tail of yarn that's on the body, not the one that's on the I-cord. And this is another thing I like about these U-shaped stitch holders, is I can knit right off of it, just like it was another needle. All right, so I've done the first 2. Now I'm going to leave the last 2 on the needle and just let it hang to the back, because we're going to incorporate those when we get to row 11. Now to finish row 9, I just need to knit the next 4 stitches. And that is it for row 9. And let me show you on the back, you can see we've got the I-cord still kind of half hanging here because we've only incorporated half of the stitches. So we'll go ahead, I'll let you do row 10, and then we'll come back and do row 11. I just finished row 10. I followed the pattern and did my knit and purl stitches to get my yarn back over to the beginning here again, and I'm ready for row 11. My two remaining stitches from my I-cord are still hanging over here on the side, and we're going to work them in to this row. So now for row 11, and just bear with me while I get us across. This is the first stitch is slipped, then we knit 2, purl 2, and then another knit 2, purl 2, All right, now we're going to do 2 cable crosses. First we're going to do the 2 over 2 front knit cross, just like we did in row 9. And then we're going to do a 2 over 2 back knit cross, which crosses the cable in the opposite direction. And to do that one, we're going to take the needle and skip the first 2 stitches and go through stitch 3 and 4 from the front. Now we slip all 4 stitches off the left-hand needle, and then we're going to grab stitch 1 and 2 from behind, and now slip those other 2 stitches back to the left-hand needle, and now the stitches have been crossed in the opposite direction that we did before. And then we just knit 4. Sorry. Okay, and that makes these 2 cables come together here. Now we purl 2, knit 1, purl 2, and now we're over to this cable section on the left, and we're going to incorporate these last 2 stitches. And to do that, we are first going to knit 5, oops, yarn in the back, we got 5. Now we're going to knit the last remaining stitches from the needle. Oops. That happens. And it's good that it happened while we're videoing, so I could just see the world, show you the world doesn't end, just slip them back on. Okay, now I want to make sure that the tail from the I-cord is to the back, so it doesn't end up sticking out through the loop. And using the tail that's attached to the main part of the border, we're going to knit these last 2 stitches off the stitch holder here. All right. And that last loop's big because it's attached to this yarn end, so you can just pull that to tighten it up. Now we have 4 stitches left on our needle for row 11, and those we knit. Okay, there's row 11. Our loop is completely secured back into the piece now, and I'll show you that from the back as well. There's the loop. Here's the tail from the loop, and just let that hang now, because you're going to finish row 12, which will take you back to the beginning, and then you're going to repeat this whole section again. And when you get to, after you complete row 8, you're going to do another I-cord loop, and that's when you will use this tail again. So just let it hang until you get back to row 8 again. And that's how we do the Feelin Loopy border.